We begin the news with politics. The All Progressives Congress, APC National Caucus, has reaffirmed its support for President Bola Tinubu's administration, emphasizing party unity and strength. Governor Hope Uzodinma stated that the APC remains focused and fully backs the government. He dismissed claims of one-man rule, highlighting the party's diverse representation across Nigeria's 6 geopolitical zones. The caucus meeting, presided over by President Tinubu at the State House in Abuja, precedes the National Executive Committee (NEC) meeting. Meanwhile, Uzodinma credited Tinubu's leadership for improved revenue generation and infrastructure development. The meeting also had Vice President Kashim Shettima and Senate President Godswill Akpabio in attendance.
To all of you, I'm very grateful. I am happy that we called the caucus and you are here caucusing. Thank you very much for the vote of confidence. I've received it, and it's very encouraging.
Off-cycle elections. Your Excellencies, the attention we give to our demographics and the domestication of campaigns have become contributing factors to the chain of electoral successes we have recorded over the last 15 months. Your Excellencies, as you are all aware, we won gubernatorial elections in Imo State, Kogi, Edo, and Ondo, but unfortunately, we lost in Bayelsa.
There are places where we cannot drive to go those places. People evacuated because of insecurity.
I bring you greetings from members of Progressive Governors Forum and to on their behalf, first, to this caucus meeting. First is to congratulate the leadership and members of our great party. To thank the Almighty God for, despite all the challenges, that the party continue to work stronger.
Now, on election matters, Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan, has called for stronger electoral institutions, legal frameworks, and greater political tolerance among politicians and political parties in West Africa to ensure inclusive and credible elections within the sub-region. Now, Jonathan, while speaking at the Yaga Africa's Reflection Conference in Abuja, applauded the conduct of elections in 2023 and 2024 in West Africa, saying that there is a need for continuous electoral progress in order to establish a progressive pattern that gives citizens hope. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, has more on this.
From Nigeria to Sierra Leone, Senegal to Liberia, the 2023 and 2024 elections have tested the resilience of West African democracy amidst challenges such as electoral integrity, political intolerance, and institutional independence. Stakeholders acknowledged progress in democratic governance within the region. At the Yaga Africa Reflection Conference, discussions centered on building on electoral gains and addressing persistent challenges.
The fact that the military regimes are now treated as an aberration within the economic community of West African states speaks eloquently to this progression and highlights the resilience and determination of our people to embrace democracy as a way of life.
While the deployment of technology has improved the credibility of elections, Jonathan cautioned that digital solutions alone are insufficient, as seen in some countries. He called for stronger electoral institutions, legal frameworks, and greater political tolerance among politicians and political parties to ensure inclusive and credible elections that restore public trust.
If we must successfully continue on this journey of learning, adaptation, and improvement of democracy in the ECOWAS region, a pattern of progressive advancement in election processes must be established.
A former INEC chairman, Atahiru Jega, also weighed in on the issue, saying that the independence of electoral management bodies is critical for credible elections in West Africa. He urged that without autonomous electoral commissions, democratic progress will be stifled, calling for greater autonomy for electoral bodies.
To be able to get elections right, you need an election management body that can do its work professionally, impartially, efficiently, in order to deliver election results with integrity.
While acknowledging progress in electoral management, stakeholders insist that strengthening electoral institutions remain a priority.
Elections don't just stop with what happens on the day that people cast their vote.
The EU recognizes the importance of strengthening electoral institutions.
It is important to continue working together to protect security, stability, and freedom.
They add that beyond elections, there is a need for active civic engagement, calling on citizens to hold leaders accountable to protect democracy. In Abuja for News Central, Idong Joseph.
Thank you.
The Lagos chapter of the #EndBadGovernance movement is calling on the Nigerian police and other security agencies to rescue kidnapped Afenifere youth leader Eniola Ojajuni. The group is questioning the effectiveness of various identity registration programs like the BVN and national ID cards in aiding security agencies. They express concern that the kidnappers may kill Ojajuni, given the deadline for the ransom has passed. This incident is part of a broader trend of rising crime rates in Nigeria, which the group attributes to harsh economic policies imposed by the current administration. Right now, to discuss this, we're joined by a member of the organizing committee, #EndBadGovernance movement in Lagos State, Taiwo Hassan Soweto. Thank you so much, Taiwo Hassan, for joining us.
A pleasure, thank you.
Now, Taiwo, the deadline for the ransom has reportedly passed as we know it, and Eniola's family must be on edge as we speak. What would you suggest as a solution on this matter?
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, the family must be in a very, very terrible shape now, but not just the family, friends, but even the rest of us, members of the public, because the ordeal of this gentleman speaks to, all of us as well, because it means that this can happen to just any one of us. And that is why we had to issue that statement to link, this situation to the very, very terrible condition, of existence that exists in the country, and the fact that the current government and security agencies do not seem to act as if they are interested. What needs to be done clearly is for us to have a security, agency that can immediately, swing into action to protect the lives of Nigerians anywhere they find themselves in this kind of situation. But unfortunately, that is not what we have. The Nigerian police is only effective at suppressing civil liberties, at arresting minor criminals on the street, harassing motorists, for bribes on the road, and making lives hell for the rest of us Nigerians. When it comes to things like this, you don't see them actually responding, and it's really very, very sad. We have to continue to clamor and demand that Prince Eniola Ojajuni must be returned back safely, and to say that the responsibility, for his ordeal right now lies on the shoulders of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who up to now has not even made a public comment on the ordeal of this gentleman.
Now, Taiwo, you have been vocal about the link between economic policies and rising crime rates, and you've even come under fire for it. How does Eniola's kidnapping fit into this narrative? What do you think the government should be doing differently to prevent these kinds of incidents?
I mean, of course, if you look at the statistics, you would see that, right from 2023, crime rate in Nigeria has grown exponentially. And that is because, when a society is on the brink with starvation everywhere on the street, it means that a lot of people who otherwise, will concentrate on honest endeavors will begin to move, into criminality in order to try to find a way to survive. That does not mean that even when society is okay, that some people will not be criminals. What we are saying, however, is that when you have harsh economic policies that pushes people to the point of starvation, then you create the basis for even more and more people, to go into criminality. And that is what is happening right now. Don't forget that when kidnapping started in this country, the targets were usually expatriates and just people who are very rich who could afford to pay wood ransom. But right now, and that will tell you that the social makeup of kidnappers has also changed. Right now, just anybody, including civil servants, including teachers, can be picked up, and then their families are told to cover out huge sums of money. That is how much criminality has penetrated, and kidnapping has become a thriving business. Obviously, the police and security agencies have to take actions, but it goes beyond a law and order response alone. If you don't begin to address the root cause of criminality, then there's no way you are going to be able to deal with it effectively. And that is why we have to use this occasion again to call on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to begin to reverse all those policies, anti-poor policies of fuel subsidy removal and increase in fuel price, as well as the inflationary increase in all services and goods in the market, including food and all of that, in order to begin to ensure that, the lives of the people begins to have some meaning. That there must be increase in income and wages, for workers and employees in private companies. We also must see actions, on the economic terrain in terms of a reduction in electricity prices, as well as, to ensure that you have a pro-people economic program that can begin to ensure that Nigerians begin to see value in their lives. Without these kind of economic measures, alongside with ensuring that we have an economy that runs for the interest of the mass majority, instead of the greed of a few, then there's no way we are not going to continue to see this kind of criminality that we see in the country and the kinds of ordeal, that Prince Eniola Ojajuni is sadly going through now.
Okay, so also we know that with all of these situations and happenstances, the people have now lost trust in the government and even the security agencies. And in terms of policy and security apparatus, what do you think the immediate actions of the president should be, the president's administration? How can we restore public confidence in their ability to handle such crises? Most of the times, we blame these things on the lack of technological advancement. But even when we have these devices, we still can't use it effectively to rescue these people. What can be done?
The first thing is for us to have a government that sees, the protection of the lives and properties of Nigerians, as a responsibility, as a core responsibility. Right now, we do not have it. Right now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a president who prefers to meet, with foreign investors, with IMF and World Bank, with economic, agencies and groups that are interested in despoiling Nigeria's national economy, instead of ensuring that our economy works for the interest of all. That is what our president is interested in. And that is why, for instance, he has not publicly even spoken about the ordeal of Prince Eniola Ojajuni. Because, for instance, if the president makes a national address, and then direct the security agencies to ensure that he is found, to ensure that they deploy all of the tools at their behest to find him, then you are going to see actions taking place. But the fact that the president and other members of the National Assembly are not even talking about this also means that they themselves do not care. And that's why the security agencies themselves are not doing anything. Because really, it's not as if you don't have the capacity among the security agencies. We have seen on occasions when members of the rural elite have found themselves in this kind of situation, how the security agencies are moved in a concerted manner to ensure that something is done. Why this is happening is because they just don't care. They prefer to use this technology that lies in their hands, to tap, the phones and the devices of activists to carry out illegal surveillance of, critique of the government, and of course, to just suppress, civil liberties. instead of using this, to begin to address, the security in the country. And because over the past few years, just how many identity registrations Nigerians have done. We have done BVN, we have done the NIN, we have done all kinds of registrations. And the justifications of government on each occasion was that all of these identity registrations were needed in order to ensure that all Nigerians have their biometric record, so that when issues like this occur, it is easier to be able to track and trace. Why are they not doing that right now? Those are the questions that we're asking. So ultimately, what we need really is to have a new kind of government in Nigeria that recognizes the lives, and interest of Nigerian people as paramount. That government is only possible on the basis of us having in place a workers and people's government that uses the resources of this country to meet with the needs of all. Right now, that does not exist. Those in power are just interested in running the country according to the interest of themselves and their friends, among the elite. Okay. That is why we're in the mess that we are in right now. So that ultimately, we need a complete overhaul of Nigerian society to be able to prevent the reoccurrence of this kind of tragedy.
Okay, Taiwo Hassan, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts on this very important discourse. Thank you for staying with us. Now, to more stories. Anambra State governorship aspirant Obiora Okonkwo has urged the leadership and the members of the All Progressives Congress to prioritize merit over zoning in the selection of the party's flag bearer for the upcoming party primaries in the state. Okonkwo, while submitting his nomination form at the APC headquarters in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, urged the party to focus on competence rather than zoning, saying that this will enhance the party's chances of success in the upcoming Anambra State off-cycle governorship election.
Zoning in Anambra is fraudulent. I do not believe that we should ignore competence, capability in the altar of zoning. Anambra have great men and women who are capable of competing on equal basis to win the governorship or the appointments to realize the potentials of Anambra State. Soludo claimed he worked for Mr. President during the election. He did not. He worked for himself. We have it in a good authority that the letter written by the presidential campaign of APC to him to even give reception, a courtesy visit to Mr. President during his campaign to Anambra. That letter was handed over from Abuja to the state chairman of the party and the secretary of the party. For 10 times, the chief protocol of the governor in Anambra State gave them an appointment to meet. For 10 times, he did not intentionally make them to receive the letter.
Nigeria's economy demonstrated resilience in the fourth quarter of 2024, with its annual gross domestic product, GDP rate, growing by 3.84%. That's according to the National Bureau of Statistics, the NBS. This growth rate surpasses the 3.46% recorded in both the third quarter of 2024 and the fourth quarter of 2023. The services sector was the primary driver of this growth, boasting an impressive 5.37% growth rate and contributing a substantial 57.38% to the aggregate GDP. On the other hand, the oil sector experienced a more modest growth rate of 1.48%, a significant decline from the 12.11% recorded in the fourth quarter of 2023. In terms of nominal GDP, Nigeria's total value of goods produced reached 78.37 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2024. The Nigerian naira is experiencing a notable surge, closing at 1,485 naira on the black market and 1,497.11 naira at the official NFEM window, indicating improved dollar liquidity and a narrowing exchange rate gap. This comes amidst evolving foreign exchange policies by the CBN, aiming for market convergence. Now, while Bismarck Rewani's report revised the CBN's direct intervention figures, the overall trend points to a strengthening naira. Joining us to discuss more on this is Executive Director, Trust Bank Holdings Limited, Aziz Lawal. Thank you, Aziz, for joining us, and good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
An absolute pleasure. Now, Aziz, the naira rose to 1,485 naira on the parallel market as of Tuesday, and this follows improved dollar liquidity. We have also seen the premium between the official and the parallel market shrink, and it closed Monday's trading at 1,503.63 naira to the dollar at the Nigerian foreign exchange market window. My question is, what factors are responsible for this, and how sustainable are they?
Yeah, thank you once again. So to the question, two things there, right? One, the naira is now stronger in the parallel market, and that's a good sign. In fact, the last time we witnessed this was around May last year. Two, the spread, what we call premium between the two markets, has now reduced significantly. Again, that's a very good sign, particularly when we came into the year. At the start of the year, it was around 7% spread or premium. There, but what currently is less than 1%. I mean, typically, when you measure the strength of a currency, those signs are very good signs. So now address your question as to the factors. Like I rightly mentioned, improved liquidity, and also, most importantly, we have seen enhanced regulation and transparency in forex operations. I mean, in this regard, you have seen the introduction of the CBN's electronic foreign exchange management system last year has bolstered confidence in the market significantly, and such that, I mean, the mode of operations, aside from the fact that they are now transparent and more efficient, you now find a situation whereby even parallel market players can go into the official market to get FX. Right, so I mean, that is why we are seeing, is one of the reasons why we are seeing that even the parallel market now is trading below the official markets. But the thing is, although this confidence in the naira has improved, long-term stability will depend on fiscal support, other structural reforms aimed at attracting more sustainable foreign direct investments. Thank you.
Okay, now, I believe that you also saw the initial report about Nigeria defending the naira with $8 billion. I also understand that the statement has now been retracted and a new figure is given, which is $3.7 billion. Be that as it may, were you irked by the initial report, and what was the challenge for you that the CBN defended the naira, or that the amount that was reportedly spent on it?
Yeah, thank you. That's an interesting question. But the thing is, the issue really was never about whether the CBN should intervene in the FX markets. I mean, typically all central banks have measures towards stabilizing their currencies. So the issue really should be about the accuracy and transparency of the reported figures. From our records, I mean, the CBN spent up to like $2.5 billion from September till date, all right, to intervene in that market. And this year alone, we've seen they spent up to $1 billion. I mean, as a January, they were close to spending up to like $600 million. And present in February, they've intervened about much as over $300 million. And really, like I said, it's really the role of CBN CBN to, in any country, to have measures in place to stabilize the currency, right? And from what we see presently, aside from the fact that there's a lot of liquidity in the market, like you have confirmed yourself, right, where you have IOCs and other market players coming into the market, right, to provide liquidity. But occasionally the CBN steps in, right, where maybe there's shortage of liquidity. Occasionally, it's not like the CBN comes in to intervene regularly or aggressively, right? So, I mean, the most important thing is that this intervention by the CBN is measured and structured towards ensuring that the naira remains stable. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us and discussing the naira's power and, of course, our liquidity rate as a country with us. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for all this. Thank you.
Now, to more stories. The Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, has summoned MultiChoice Nigeria over its planned subscription price hike for DSTV and for GoTV set to take effect on the 1st of March 2025. Subscribers have recently received notifications of increased rates, with DSTV Premium package rising from 37,000 to 44,500 and Compact Plus increasing from 25,000 to 30,000. In response, FCCPC has directed MultiChoice Nigeria's CEO to appear for an investigative hearing on the 27th of February. The Commission has expressed concerns over recurrent price hikes, potential market dominance abuse, and anti-competitive practices. FCCPC has warned that regulatory penalties may be imposed if MultiChoice fails to provide satisfactory explanations. It has reaffirmed its commitment to protecting Nigerian consumers and ensuring fair competition in the pay TV industry. Also, workers have demanded inclusion in the planned concession of Port Harcourt International Airport, raising concerns over their job security and their welfare. Our union representatives have insisted that the federal government engage them in discussions before proceeding with the concession process. They have argued that past airport concessions have led to job losses and poor working conditions. The workers, under the aegis of aviation unions, have staged demonstrations calling for transparency and accountability in the process. They have warned that any attempt to sideline them could result in industrial action. Meanwhile, the federal government has reiterated that the concession is geared towards improving efficiency and service delivery. However, workers have urged authorities to ensure their rights and interests are protected. Talks between the unions and government officials have yet to yield a resolution. Now, Akpakpava youths in Benin City, the Edo State capital, have taken to the streets to protest 8 months of darkness in parts of the metropolis after suspected vandals carted away their transformer. The protesters marched through a major street before arriving at the BDC headquarters, State House of Assembly, where the Speaker, Blessing Agbebaku, represented by the majority leader of the House, Charity Aigubuaguran, assured them of tangible changes in the coming days.
And it's their responsibility to give us transformer. When they stole the cable, we donated money from the environment to buy cable. The next day or Sunday of it, PVC staff, they came with their uniform, removed the transformer. And they are telling us here now that we should go and look for permanent people in our society, in our area, to provide transformer for us, that they don't have any transformer or grant.
Our community has been taken over by darkness because the transformer was stolen by some unscrupulous elements more than 8 months ago. We know that we have very astute and sagacious members of the Edo State Assembly that will take cognizance of the cries, pains, and pants of the ragtags and the bobtails. That is why we are here.
Akpakpava is where the BDC is housed. From where a surprise light to about 4 states is the regional headquarters. So charity ordinarily should begin at home. I should expect that if there is no light in this vicinity, the BDC, being now a private company, should want to start its preaching of distribution light to the people from their own environment or their social milieu. That having been said, your complaint is well taken. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Speaker, who is absent, not by design, but because of his very busy schedule.
The Akwa Ibom State Governor, Pastor Umoeno, has made a request for a battalion along the Oron-Uruefong-Oruko axis because they will help check criminality along the waterways. The governor made the call during a courtesy visit by the new General Officer Commanding GOC 6th Division of the Army, Major General Eric Emeka, to the governor at the Government House, Uyo. The governor was commended for his continuous support of the Nigerian Army and other security agencies. Governor Umoeno assured the GOC of his commitment to peace and security, emphasizing the importance of collaborations with the Army and other security agencies to ensure the safety of citizens. The governor also recalled a previous request for an army battalion along the Onro-Wefong-Uruko axis to check criminality along the waterways. He urged the GOC to help actualize this request. The First Lady of Nigeria, Oluremi Tinubu, has donated kits and critical equipment to 10,000 nurses and midwives in Kaduna State in a bid to support primary health care at the grassroots and help combat HIV/AIDS and maternal mortality. This was made known in Kaduna as the First Lady visited the Kaduna State Governor Uba Sani prior to the flag-off of the Free to Shine campaign in the northwest geopolitical zone of the country, which is an advocacy initiative of the African Union, the Organization of African First Ladies for Development, and several other development partners. Amadine Uyi reports.
The visit by the First Lady intimated the Kaduna State Governor of the Free to Shine campaign. The First Lady expressed optimism that efforts at eliminating the transmission of HIV/AIDS, syphilis, and hepatitis can be won.
We are looking at 3 elimination, because after COVID and Ebola, I didn't even realize that we have to look into HIV/AIDS again. I thought, and I remember that HIV/AIDS, the generation, this present generation will only think about Ebola and also COVID-19.
The First Lady and the Kaduna State Governor expressed worry over figures available bordering on new HIV infections, including child and maternal mortality rates, amongst others.
Nigeria has the highest burden of HIV/AIDS infection. And I didn't realize that until I went to the meeting with the Organization of African First Ladies for Development, that UNAIDS actually called me out in that event and said Nigeria has the highest number. Some African nations, they are even, I think their rate is even very low or even next to nothing.
You will agree with me that one of the major challenges we're facing in the North, and in Northwest in particular, is the problem of child and maternal mortality rate that has been going up in the last few years. But today, I can say that we are seeing a lot of effort from the federal government under the able leadership of our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because of the synergy between subnationals and the federal government.
The Kaduna State government expressed delight with the support from the First Lady, which he says will boost healthcare at the grassroots.
Today, I'm happy to say that she's supporting 10,000 midwives and nurses with some very critical and important equipments that they will use. We all know that midwives and nurses are the frontline workers. They are the ones saving lives at the level of birth. But they need to be protected also. They need to be supported. They need to be encouraged. And that's what she's here to do in Kaduna.
The First Lady also flagged off the Free to Shine campaign in the northwest geopolitical zone of the country, which is part of an advocacy initiative of the African Union, the Organization of the African First Ladies for Development, and other global partners. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Now, not less than 40 cases of Lassa fever have been recorded in some parts of Benue State, north-central Nigeria, following the outbreak of the disease in the country. Now, this was made known by the State Commissioner for Health and Human Services, Dr. Yama Otesi, during a press conference in the state. News Central's Chizoba Anyowe quotes the commissioner as saying that the number of cases recorded so far has been on the increase at every successive year, drawing the attention of the government and other critical stakeholders to improving sanitary conditions of the residents to ensure healthy living. Now, the NCDC and other concerned agencies in the state have also recommitted to ensuring they put all hands on deck to fight the scourge. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, the news continues in Southern Africa, where police in Zimbabwe have arrested veteran journalist Blessed Nlaga, charging him with 2 counts of contravening Section 164 of the Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act for allegedly transmitting data messages inciting violence. The charges relate to Mlanga granting an interview to war veteran Blessed Geza a staunch opponent of Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa 2030 agenda, war veteran and ZANU-PF Central Committee member. Geza issued press briefings and interviews through HSTV, anchored by Mlanga, calling for President Emmerson Mnangagwa to resign from office immediately, adding that failure to which the people of Zimbabwe will use the constitution to assist him to step down. Mlanga will spend more nights behind bars after a Harare magistrate postponed his bail application. The judgment on the bail application is now set to be heard on Thursday.
It was arrested, as you all know, yesterday, that is the 24th of February 2025, on allegations of transmitting a data message for purposes of inciting violence. That, to our mind and in our consideration, is a completely unjustified charge against a journalist. This is contrary to the provisions of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which under Section 61 provides for media freedom. The bail ruling has been deferred to Thursday, the 27th of February 2025. We shall therefore come back to court day after tomorrow, and we are hoping that the outcome of these bail proceedings will be positive.
While South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa warned that the erosion of multilateralism threatens global growth and stability. In his opening address at the G20 meeting, he emphasized the importance of a rules-based order to manage geopolitical tensions and resolve conflict. He stressed that multilateral cooperation is vital to address changes like slow growth, rising debt, poverty, inequality, and climate change. South Africa, holding this year's G20 presidency, chose the theme Solidarity, Equality, Sustainability. However, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Senator Marco Rubio criticized the agenda, accusing South Africa of promoting anti-American policies.
To ensuring that the rights and interests of the vulnerable are not trampled beneath the ambitions of the powerful. Multilateral cooperation is our only hope of overcoming unprecedented challenges, including slow and uneven growth, rising debt burdens and levels. The G20 must show leadership in addressing the imbalances that persist in the global economy and filling the significant gap in funding required to achieve sustainable development goals.
South Africa is hosting the 19th Meetings Africa 2025 conference at the Sandton Convention Center in Johannesburg. Now, under the theme Africa's Success Built on Quality Connections, the event is organized by South African Tourism in partnership with the Gauteng Tourism Authority and Johannesburg Tourism. Meetings Africa serves as a strategic platform to showcase the continent's diverse destinations, foster business networking, encourage knowledge sharing, and promote cross-sector collaboration. This year's edition is expected to further strengthen Africa's position in the global meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions industry. News Central's Bongani Saziba has more.
From the sun-kissed beaches of Mauritius to majestic landscape of Kenya and the verdant hills of Rwanda to the beautiful South African landscape, 27 countries are here under one roof, each telling their own story, showcasing the beauty and the diversity of African tourism. Here, more than 20 countries unite in a collaborative effort to redefine tourism landscape across the continent. And in recent years, African tourism has witnessed remarkable growth, emerging as a vital pillar of economic development.
By working together here at Meetings Africa and beyond, and making meaningful connections, we can drive lucrative investments, create jobs, and ensure Africa claims its fair share of the global business events market.
But what more does Africa have to offer? How can this vibrant continent leverage its rich culture, breathtaking landscapes, and unparalleled hospitality
to attract more global travelers.
We do have the iconic Kruger National Park being located in our province. We have the panorama route, which includes God's Window, your potholes. We also, in the Lowveld, have many private nature reserves, which can be explored by tourists. The iconic Barberton Makonjwa World Heritage Site is located in our province as well. So we've got a diversity of tourist attractions that can be visited. We have also diversified our tourism industry to include adventure activities. So those are some of the areas that could be visited in our province.
When people come into our space, they really want to immerse themselves in our culture, in our food and everything else. So that's what we need to showcase of.
This year welcomed new members to the fold, highlighting even more of Africa's diverse offerings, from the savannas of East Africa to the cultural renaissance in West Africa, the continent's brimming potential.
And I want to especially welcome the new African countries that have joined us for the first time. And that is Chad, Guinea, Morocco, and Madagascar. We welcome you warmly.
Meetings Africa is not just a conference, it's a movement aimed at showcasing Africa's unparalleled diversity, rich heritage, and vibrant culture, all of which play a crucial role in boosting economies through tourism. Tourism in Africa is not just about destinations, it's about the experiences created, the stories shared, and the communities uplifted through sustainable initiatives.
With the G20 summit just around the corner, South Africa is positioning itself as a leader in African tourism and in the world. At Sandton Convention Center in Johannesburg, for News Central, Bongani Siziba.
Now to stories outside the African continent. The 88-year-old Pope Francis, who is battling pneumonia in both lungs, remains in critical condition, both stable. This is according to the Vatican's report on Wednesday. The Pope was admitted to Rome's Gemelli Hospital on February 14 for breathing difficulties, sparking global concern as his condition worsened. However, after suffering respiratory attacks and requiring blood transfusions, his condition has stabilized. Doctors remain cautious, stating the prognosis is still uncertain. However, no acute respiratory episodes have occurred since the weekend, and his vital signs are stable. The Pope continues to work from his hospital suite, receiving the Eucharist and keeping up with church matters. Pilgrims have gathered in prayer, hoping for his recovery. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed interest in purchasing minerals from Russia, stating, "I'd like to buy minerals on Russian land too," during a press conference at the White House. This comment comes as the U.S. and Ukraine are close to signing an agreement on Ukrainian rare earth minerals. Trump also mentioned that Ukraine faces a choice, either conclude a deal on minerals or face problems. The president's remarks highlight the complex dynamics of global mineral trade and the strategic interests of major world powers.
Did he raise, or did you discuss at all, the possibility of a minerals deal on the Ukrainian land that Russia now controls?
I didn't discuss it, no. I'd like to buy minerals on Russian land too, if we can. The rare earth, they have very good rare earth also. They both do, I would say that, and oil and gas. Look, it's a great thing. If we sell this, it's great for Russia too, because we can do deals there. They have very valuable land that isn't utilized. So something like that could take place, yeah.
Well, that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. We did tell you that APC National Caucus has thrown its weight behind President Tinubu's administration. We also said Nigeria's annual gross domestic product GDP has grown by 3.84% in fourth quarter of 2024. And finally, we mentioned that Zimbabwean journalist Blessed Mlanga has been arrested over alleged incitement of violence. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Masugu.